actually called, let's see, where's my paper? Okay, yeah. It's actually called Operation New Hope. And I selected this organization because I've, like I said, mentioned before, my brothers, just their situation of like growing up, just really struggling with their youth, mental illness, and all of that stuff. So I selected it because I obviously a passion for youth too, not just my brothers. And then so let me see. I'm sorry. I'm like reading my notes. um, yeah. So this organization, they have really awesome values and the resources that they offer here. They aim to increase high school graduation rates, provide mental illness resources, life skills, workshops. So they're focused on financial literacy, healthy relationships. So they're basically helping youth to not allow the percentage of San Bernardino like dropouts and like murders and like just crazy stuff that youth get into if they are like neglected or going through things. So it's just super cool. I was like reading through it and I really liked it. So I'm just hoping the review, and I did have questions on the review too, Steve, if I'm allowed
Okay.
to share, ask you.
Yeah. Do I have the right one up? Is it in? I think I have the right document up. If you can see it,
Is it Rancho? Is it the one in Rancho?
Yeah, it's marked as Rancho on GuideStar, but it's marked as San Bernardino in their tax
Yeah,
form.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I did the 990, but I
Yeah.
had some questions on it too. So if you can help me through it.
Okay. So looks like that first score on program service revenue, they are getting most of their revenue from program service revenue, but I'll look further down to figure out what that means, what it is that they're doing. So
Yeah.
we'll hold
I,
off
I
on
saw
it.
that I saw that it was exact same division, so it was like 714 over 714. If
Yeah,
that's
well, in 2000, look out, looks like in 2018, prior year, they were 100% program service revenue. And then in the more recent year, that's marked current year, they're like 92%. So still pretty high. But let's look further down and figure out what it is they're marking
yeah.
it at.
And Steve, I wasn't sure how to do the percentage. I was like so stuck. I'm like, I don't know what one is. Like I wasn't sure.
One is bigger than 0.8.
Oh,
So
dang it. Okay, that's
yeah,
one
so
point.
you get
Dang
one
it.
point there. But like I said, let's look and see what they did. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
I'm hopeful.
we won't lose hope yet, Aaron. Salaries look good.
Yeah, that was a three. And then so number three, the third category was the same thing. It was 33,000 over 33,000. So I was like, oh dang, it's a 1 point, I think.
Um,
I
yeah,
think.
what they're saying is that so far what they're saying is that they don't get any money from the general public. So they get money from program fees, and they get a little bit of money from government grants. But it's like they don't get any money from asking people for money, which seems strange to me. But I suppose it's possible. Let's go to maybe we can go to their website here, see what it is that they say they do. It was ONH Cares. Right.
Yeah, Operation New Hope.
So they have free programs. So I don't know how they can have a free program and say they're charging for everything.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing they just have a bad accountant, if I had to guess. But Obviously, they have a lot of good stuff. So, Beth, will you make a note that I need to call these guys?
Yes.
I think it was the Project Life Impact was the other one, the other group that I need to call.
Okay.
All right, Candace, fingers crossed. But I think this seems like a really good organization. So
Thank you, Steve.
thanks for doing the extra work.
Thank you.
All right, Junior, you ready?
Yeah. So I chose Children's Fund in San Bernardino. Children's Fund. And I chose this because they help out children and my just because I had a connection with my dad, how vulnerable. I mean, just talk to my dad about this and how he had his a rough childhood and where he had zero. So they're just helping. So the reason I chose this is because they help vulnerable children, providing food, clothes, bed, shelter, transportation, medical, and dental care that they won't receive. They also offer scholarships to students to better themselves in education. They also have a mentor program that helps them in their academics, greater self esteem, and personal growth. But the reason why I chose this because my dad was I think he ran away from home at the age of 9 because due to my grandfather being up so much, and he had nothing, he had no food or anything. So he had told me that he would use the same like pair of clothes for 2 months, and then he would wash them and use them again. But that was in Mexico when he had no nothing at all. So when he talked about that, he had zero help. Also, my mother, she had to walk 5 miles or a couple miles to the school of Mexico in Mexico. That she said she had to walk every morning, 5 miles there and 5 miles back, so it would be a total of 10 miles. And she had no transportation, just her feet. And they would both live in the middle of nowhere. I know where my mom lives, and she lives far from the city. But my dad said, I never been where my dad's part in Mexico. He said he was born in the house. My mom was born in the house as well. But I mean, my mom's education stopped at high school because she had no money to continue her education.
That's quite a growing up. 9 years old. You say he ran away?
My dad ran away before, I think, at 9. Yeah, because my grandpa, if just the way he would raise the cattle, if they would eat anything else, my grandfather found out, he would beat up my dad with anything that he would find his hands on. So but I think my dad said he just had a rough childhood and he didn't have no one helping him out. So I think at 13 he got his first job as a newsboy, and that's pretty much all I know about his childhood. He's not really open about it. He just said it's the darkest time of his life. But I think they scored an 18 for me. I don't know if I did it right or wrong.
Yeah, one high salary, but one is still an 18. Government grants looks like 0.4 ish. Grants to other organizations looks like 0.2 ish. And yeah, less than 10% of the others. Yep. Looks good to me. Someone else did this one, right?
I think so.
I did it.
Okay. Yeah, no, the doc looks good. All right, thank you. Who else we got? Kaylee?
What's that?
Kaylee, have you presented?
I have not.
Are you ready?
No.
Well, that's a problem.
I know.
Well, tell me what you know so far. Do you have an organization?
I've been getting like too picky, if I'm honest.
Okay.
So after or during class, my sisters.
Why don't you talk me through one of your no's? Let's do that. So did you pick an
Mhm.
organization and you looked through it and you didn't like it?
Yeah.
All right. Which one was that?
I remember the logo, but that's all I can remember, and that's what the main problem is.
You don't have any notes or anything?
No, because it was like when I was at church and I didn't have any of my stuff with me.
Okay. All right. Well, you may have to present at a future class. So just be forewarned.
I should be ready to present next week.
There probably is no next week. This was the last class. Um, so you'll have to do it in somebody else's class in the next quarter. And then
Okay.
who else is left? Luis? Anybody who hasn't presented that needs to?
I do.
All right, Sonia, go ahead.
Okay, so my organization is called the Forgotten Children, I believe.
You believe?
No, not believe. It's in Long Beach. Yeah, first one.
Okay. Someone keeps logging in during class. Don't do that. All right, tell me what you know about Forgotten Children.
So far, what I know is that it's an organization that helps women and children that are affected by human trafficking or like sexual exploitation. I can't speak. I can't even pronounce the word, but like basically like prostitution and stuff like that. And honestly, like I live close to Pomona, so I see a lot of that. So that's something that I have a heart for that to like help women or children that are like forced into that kind of lifestyle of being kind of captive in, sex trafficking and whatnot.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of like found interest in this one. So it helps women and empowers them and tries to get them off the streets and that lifestyle, and it has a lot of like things that helps these women and children get back to a normal life.
Are they providing housing, or are they providing
Yes.
counseling, or?
Yes, they put them in like this like system where I think it's 180 days where they go through like housing and like classes that help them.
Rachel's House of Healing. Okay, good. And how did it do on the scorecard?
I checked through two people, Josh and my mother, and it was a perfect score of 18.
You thought it was 18 and then you had it double checked, or you had them do your homework for
I had them check for me too.
you?
But I don't know. I could be wrong and they could be wrong. So
Well, they cheated on this last page. Let's try to figure out what they did here. They just put everything to other. I've never seen that before. Totally cheated. All right, I'm gonna jump down to try to find it in the back of hiding in the back of the document here. So sorry to make your eyes bug out while I scroll here. Um, Yeah, so they have a really bad accountant.
Maybe you should apply to work for them.
For example, they're showing fundraising expenses with 62,000 in management totaling up to 47,000. So it doesn't even add up. And they didn't record any of that in the part 9. They just lumped it all in one thing. So assuming their total is 546, they're showing 308 under management and overhead. But they've got like all kinds of things in here, like telephone. All their telephone is for overhead, but that's not true. I mean, they're using their telephones for what they do. So it's not an 18 because of this page. It's at best a 16, but considering how poorly the document's done, I'm not going to default you for that. It's just a big mess here. So let me look at a prior year just to see if it was ever better. No, a little better, but alrighty. Well, I'm not going to waste the group's time being mad at the organization. So, interesting though. All right, I'm going to keep that one up too for my own benefit. All right, anybody else?
Maylene has to, but I don't see her on the call. And then Luis.
I'm sharing with Luis.
Oh, wonderful.
Sorry.
There you go. It's okay.
All right, kick us off then.
Okay, mine's is Beloved Foundation, and it's located in Redlands.
The what foundation?
Beloved Foundation.
Love, L-O-V-E?
Beloved. B-E-L.
Beloved?
Beloved, yeah.
Okay, tell me about the organization.
They help with families who are diagnosed with cancer, and they help them in different ways with like grants or with their finances, or if they need programs for the kids or different things that they help them with.
Okay, and why did you pick them?
I picked it because my aunt passed away last year of cancer, and her daughter, she raised her whole life, who's also handicapped. She raised her, and she also, so when she passed away, she left her daughter. So they put her in a home. She's in a home right now, and they're taking care of her, and she has cancer as well, but also a lot of more problems as well. But I picked it because it's something that a lot of people don't get help with, and especially low-income families, like they don't have exactly, what they need and stuff like that. So.
Okay, and how did your scoring go?
17.
And where did they lose a point?
I'm sorry?
Where did they lose a point?
I think it was, let's see, number 6. They scored a 2.
Too much fundraising?
It was,
Yeah, it looks like they're like a 0.5% high. So, no, the numbers look really good. Technically, it's a 17, but it's more like a 17.9 or something. All right, I've never seen this organization. I appreciate you finding it, and it's nice to find something new. Thank you. All right, Luis, you're up.
So mine's the Blue Green Alliance.
Oh yeah, you went to Arizona. How'd that go?
It went really pretty good. Actually, so it is a environmental one, but as well as they do help people get jobs and work with other companies, and through that they showed us different job, different companies that they work at Arizona. So we got to meet their training facilities, to how they do everything else with processing them, giving them opportunity to get jobs through schooling out through those companies.
So, are they helping people find work?
To get trained to get work.
Okay. So it's more than just trying to convince people to save the environment.
Yeah. So they do both ways.
Okay. And what'd you learn about with your 990?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
What did you learn by looking at the 990 scorecard?
That let me pull up the numbers. I'm so lost. I can't. Leah? Sorry. Leah told me about this.
Yeah, no.
And then,
What they score on your scorecard?
the first one will be. Let me see. Where is it? I got a point for number one, and another point.
All right. So, sorry you're in such a noisy area here, but number one should have been 277 divided by 2983, right?
Yeah.
So that should give you 3 points because it's less than 0.6.
Uh-huh.
So that should be 3 points for that first one, not 1 point. What'd you get for your total score on the scorecard?
I got a 15.
15? Because I'm seeing a 17, so double check that. I think the first one, most of their money is coming from donations, so that should be a 3. But double check your math on that one before you turn it in.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So we've got everybody who was going to go has gone.
Yes.
So I'm going to switch
Steve, I have a
gears.
question.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping this organization will be good, but would you guys like me to find an alternative just in case?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't jump ahead of it. I would.
Okay,
I would just wait wait patiently for that. You've presented, so you've met the graduation requirement. It's just a matter of finding an organization that you want to give a check to.
Yeah.
And if
Oh,
the board,
great.
yeah, if the board rejects the organization, then you've got, a lot of time, unlimited time to, find an organization that you want to give a check to. But you've done the work, assuming you turn in a good piece of paper.
Yeah. I turned in my
and-
analysis.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's the real homework assignment is to do the work. So
Thank you. I'm really happy to hear that. That makes me so happy. Yay.
Well, I know you'll be happy if you can find an organization that we can write a check to. So.
I know. I'm praying this one goes through, Stevie. I really like it. So I'm hoping.
All right.
Thanks.
So let's see if we can finish up the course material in the time we have left. I had to let you go a little early last week because my voice was cutting out. So if you recall last week, we were talking about, how can you free up resources to be more generous? So a lot of people say, hey, I would be more generous, if I had more money. And then they get more money, and then they keep saying that. I believe Dan walked you guys through the objections during week 2 or week 3. And that's a big one. People just assume they don't have enough money. So part of what we're doing here is kind of walk you through how do you get yourself in a situation where you have more money. And one of those things is reducing your debt and not spending more than you earn. I know a lot of times when I listen to the radio, there's a lot of commercials for this thing that's called a debt reduction loan. And so I want to walk you guys through that, just so that you understand the math behind it. So if you had $10,000 in credit card debt, because you're spending $500 a month more than you make, and a company convinces you to get a debt reduction loan, and they take that $10,000 in high interest credit card debt, and they convert it into a loan at a lower interest and charge you $100 for doing that, how does that change your debt in that moment? I lost everybody. Who's still there?
I'm here.
All right. So you have a $10,000 in credit card debt. You get a debt reduction loan, and they move the $10,000 from your credit card to your debt reduction loan. How's your debt situation at that moment?
Isn't it worse?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit worse. So you now still owe the $10,000, but you had to come up with $100 to pay the fees. So a debt reduction loan doesn't actually reduce your debt, at least in the moment. It may lower your interest rate a little bit, but it may also affect your credit. So you've got to be careful with those things. And if you're if you start paying off this credit card or this new loan, and you have to pay less in the loan payment, but you haven't changed your habits, how did you get into the mess in the first place? Because you overspent $500 a month. So if you're still overspending by $500 a month, getting a debt reduction loan, all that does is, if you're not careful, is it frees up money off your credit card and then you can go start spending more money again. So in another year, you could have another $6,000 in credit card debt and still have $9,000 to pay off on your debt reduction loan, and your problem's getting worse instead of better. So, don't think of changing the loan as the solution to the problem. Think of, hey, I need to spend less than I make, or I need to make more than I spend. So I either need to spend less or I need to make more. One of those two things has to happen. It's usually easier to spend less if you are willing to, give up some things. But that's the way that, you take the savings from not overspending and you apply that to your debt, and that's what's going to pay off the debt. Way more than moving money around from one type of loan to another type of loan. So you'll still be overspending. I think we've kind of talked through that. So if you cut up your credit card, then you're forced to live off of, cash, and you make your debt reduction loan payment. That's great, but you could cut up your credit card either way. You don't need to change your debt. You can just say, hey, I technically have a credit card because I have to make payments, but I've cut it up so I can't even use it. And that will force you to, make the payments on the credit card and not add more money to it. So that's what I would recommend for you. All right, so let's take a look at kind of a long story, but it's long just because there's sort of 4 parts to it, and most of the parts are about the same. So let me kind of walk you through this translation. It says, a man was going on a journey, and he called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and another 1 bag, each according to his ability, and he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more, but the one who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts for them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. I've gained 5 more. The master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come share in your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags said, you gave me 2 bags. I've gained 2 more. Master, same reply. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come share in your master's happiness. The man who received 1 bag of gold came. Master, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not gathered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have at least received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him, the guy who got the 1, and give it to the one who has 10. All right, so a lot of words in there, but the story's pretty simple. So remember, we want to look at what does it say, and then look at what does it mean. So what do we know about the master? He gave someone 5 bags and someone 2 bags and someone 1 bag. And does it say why he gave some different amounts? You see what it says in there in that first couple of sentences?
According to their abilities.
According to their abilities. So is that fair?
Yeah.
The answer is it doesn't matter whether it's fair or not. It just is, right? So So the master understood the abilities of these three guys, and he gave them bags of gold according to their abilities. And they pretty much lived up to what he expected. The guy with 5 turned it into 10. The guy with 2 turned it into 4. The guy with 1 buried it. And the master said, down here in the second page here, you wicked, lazy servant. So he had given him some ability, not as much as the others. You can imagine this third guy, you know, on the day that the money was passed out, you know, he's thinking, dude, you know, how come I only got 1? Well, you can see why he only got 1. He couldn't even do well with the 1 that he got. And the master calls him lazy. So all he did was bury it. So what we learn from this, remember, the thing about parables is we don't want to create too much out of it. We want to just look for the main thing. You know, I've always heard it said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So what do you think is the main thing in this story? What's the point of it? What does it mean? Who can summarize it for me?
I think it's just about, like, kind of going back to the scripture, like, faithful with little, and can he trust him with what he gave him? And I think, I don't know if it's like wrong or right, but yeah.
Yeah. So what is it saying? And then we go to the third part, which is what's the point? So how does that apply to you and me, or does it? So if we apply it to ourselves, we have to say to ourselves, okay, I may have been given some, I may have been given a lot, I may have been given less than the person who lives next door, but that's not the main point. The main point is, what am I going to do with what I've been given? And am I going to be wicked and lazy and squander whatever I've been given? Or am I going to go out there and try to gain more out of it? You guys see that? So if you apply it to yourself today, you would say, hey, doesn't matter whether I get the 5 or the 2 or the 1. What matters is that I do something with it. Because what I've been given is what's appropriate for me. And I'm capable of doing good stuff with whatever it is that I've been given. And if I do well with it, then what does the master say? I'll put you in charge of more things. So if you guys feel like, oh gosh, I got this bum deal, you know, I had to grow up in San Bernardino, and, you know, I had to, or, you know, Mexico, or, you know, wherever, whatever, you know, we think is, you know, less than, you know, other people that we look around and see around us. You know, I think the point of this story, if you believe it, is, hey, take what you've got and do something with it. And some point in the future, you will get more, so you can do more with so that you prove yourself that you can do something with what you currently have. So be thinking about that this week. All right, comments, questions?
I think that's good, Steve, because like, kind of going back to that scripture too, like, what the enemy meant for harm, God turns around for the good. Not saying, like, you know, living in San Bernardino is like bad or anything, but you know, like, whatever we have gone through, we can always, like, use it for the better and learn from it. So that was good.
Yeah, you know, go ahead.
No, it wasn't about that. It was it was. I would just want to ask if he was lazy for maintaining what he was given, because the master said that he was wicked.
Well, I mean, obviously, there's probably more to the story, you know, that we can't see all the details from. The question would be, what was he doing with his life while that was buried? And so the assumption is that if he called him wicked, he must have been. I don't think he was wicked for doing the burying. The wicked, if the master was gone for a long time, and that guy on day one buried the money. So if the master was gone for 5 years, what was that servant doing for 5 years? Because it wasn't trying to take the dollar and or bag of gold and turn it into 2 bags of gold. So he must have been going off and doing something stupid, something lazy or something.
On the other side of that, I see that, well, he saved it. Granted, you know, he could have been using it and multiplying it, but he didn't use it. Like, of course, we don't know more of the story, but he.
I think that's really the key thing that we have to be thinking to ourselves with is, you know, is it good enough to just not lose something? You know, we think we deserve credit for not losing something, but in reality, what's expected of us is to make something of it, as opposed to just not losing it. So I think that's worth thinking about. Again, you don't want to tear up the story to the point where you apply it to something that doesn't apply to. Yeah. But you know, the main thing there is that doing something with it and making something better, using your talents or using your gifts, is way better than hiding them and just, you know, trying to get through life without using them. So trying to make things better. So, yeah, good question though. Okay, we got an exercise for you guys. So grab a piece of scratch paper or a free section of somewhere on your phone that you can jot down some ideas. And what I want you to do is try to come up with a bunch of reasons, good, bad, or indifferent, of why people give. And remember, from day one, we talked about the definition of generosity: freely giving or sharing things we value for the benefit of others. And we discovered that you can be a giver without being generous. You can't be generous without being a giver. But if you just try to answer the question, what are the various motivations of why people give? So sometimes I get criticized for saying, you know, hey, is there a good reason or a bad reason? I think, you know, there's certainly, you know, better reasons than others, and that's kind of what we're kind of doing in this exercise. But just for your own personal benefit, see if you can come up with, you know, I don't know, 10 different reasons on people you've observed that give and what you think their motivations are for giving, and jot those down, and then we'll see what kind of list we can come up with. I'm just gonna turn a light on here because it's dark. All right, keep thinking about your lists, but somebody jump in and give me one answer in your list?
Obligation.
I give because I have to.
Yeah. Oh no, I give
And
because I feel obligated because others give.
oh, okay. I give because it's expected of me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
I think because out of trying to feel like they accomplished something.
I give because it gives me a sense of accomplishment, where I feel good about it.
Yeah.
they
Okay.
give because if they want to make a difference in the community.
Good, good. Okay. I give because it makes a difference.
Some may give like if it's a campaign or something that's like popular in the media, so it's like trending, so they want to be a part of that.
Good. Yeah. Certainly with it's almost because it's cool. You still say cool. I
They know
give
how to.
because it's
Yep.
the end thing to do.
We still say cool, Steve. I do.
Okay.
Some people give because they've been in that situation before.
Yeah, so maybe they give because somebody gave and helped them and they want to pay it forward, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I like that.
Some people give because they feel guilty.
Good. What might they be feeling guilty about?
Maybe they were. The first thing that comes to mind for me is a drunk driver, and maybe they give to an organization that helps with people who are hurt by drunk drivers.
So they're trying to make up for something?
Yes, sir.
That's great. All right, who else has got one that we haven't covered yet?
Just to meet the need.
Yeah, they see a need and they want to meet it. I like that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They give because of their spiritual beliefs.
Yeah, so let's dig into that one a little bit. They give because
So
God tells them to?
Yeah, it's like a commandment in the Bible.
Okay, because there's a couple ways we can go there. One of them is spiritual obedience. What would be another spiritual reason? Is it just always because God is making me do it?
I think if you use an example of Christianity and the Bible, when you follow Christ, you love him and you get his heart for people. And so
Okay.
he wants to help people. So by
So
default,
you give as an act of love?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I like that. The other one you might think about is whether you can give as an act of worship. So,
That's good.
Good.
That's tithes
All
and
right.
offering, right?
I'm saying?
That's tithes and offering, right?
Yeah, but the tithe itself doesn't define the motivation. Some people tithe because they have to. The Mormon Church, for example, they want to see your tax returns and you have to give 10%, and there's this pressure to do it. So you're doing it because possibly because there's pressure to do it.
I did not know they did that.
Yeah,
No information.
the tithe. So some people tithe because they're afraid of God's wrath, and so they fear God in a bad way, and they do it because they don't want to get punished. Some people tithe because it's an act of love or an act of obedience or an act of worship. So we're trying to kind of go one step backwards. Think of the second grader who always asks why. Why is he doing it? Why? So I'm doing it because I'm supposed to tithe. Well, is it because you're supposed to, or because you want to, or because So that's what I want you guys to think about. All right. So what I've done is I've kind of taken answers that I've received over the years and divided them into 3 categories. One is reasons that typically lead to more and more generosity. Somebody mentioned this. If there's a specific need, a specific person, and you just want to help them out, and you see that they are helped out for it, that may lead you to give more in the future. A specific cause. Just wanting to make the world a better place. Again, if you give in such a way that you can see the results of your giving and you see the world becoming a better place, although, it's arguable today that the world's becoming a worse place, but not because people aren't giving. It's just, our acts of generosity themselves can make the world a better place. Wanting to give back. I've noticed a lot of faith-based texts start with this: hey, everything that I have is a gift. I have a lot more than most people, and I want to give back from that. Or God wants me to give some of that back, that kind of thing. So recognizing that I have more than the next guy. We just talked about wanting to please God. You'll hear the word steward, which is a very churchy kind of word. But it's just like the word manager. It's just like the story that we read about the master who gave his servants some bags of gold. Those servants were stewards. He was giving them money or talents or time, and they needed to manage that, to steward it. So again, it's a kind of a churchy word, but it just means that you've been entrusted with something and you want to do the best you can with it. And then an act of worship. Some more neutral kind of motivations. Doing it because you think you're supposed to is okay. May not lead to more giving. Giving because it's just the way you've always done it. They pass the hat in church and you just put money in it. We've always done it, that kind of thing. It's okay. Kind of in this middle of the road list. Somebody mentioned the trendy things. A lot of these charity golf tournaments or dinners or things. You want to go, you want to have fun, you want to dance, you want to play golf. And in the process, you're willing to, bid on a charity auction or something, but it's not really because your heart's into trying to make the change. You're just, enjoying the event or helping out a friend or something like that. Someone mentioned something like this. You kind of do this accountant, engineer, cost benefit analysis, and you see that it would be valuable to do it, so you do it. Just very intellectually, but not necessarily with your heart in it. So not bad. All right. So we just talked about the definition: freely giving sharing things we value for the benefit of others. So this last set of motivations fail that definition. And so fear fails that freely part of the definition. Your parents make you do it, or you feel pressure from your friends, or you feel pressure because it's the hat's being passed and you don't want to be seen as the person not putting money in it. That's not really freely. Nobody brought this one up, but some people give to get their name on a plaque, or get their name on a building, or get applause. And then that becomes for their own personal benefit, less about the benefit of others. There's some couple of texts in the Bible that talk about Pharisees that want everybody to clap and be recognized, and Jesus says, well, there, you just got the benefit for your gift right there in full, because you were doing it for the recognition. This one is funny that I hear in some of my circles, is giving gifts for a tax deduction, which is ultimately bad math. Because if you say, I'm going to give $1,000 so that I don't have to pay $500 in taxes, then the math doesn't even work. So it's a bit of an odd thing to say I'm doing it for a tax write-off. Because if you're just trying to hold on to your money, it's better just to pay the taxes. I mean, it's not bad to take a tax write-off if you've given for other reasons. That just makes your money more effective and gives you more money to give to give even more. So the tax deduction is okay. It's just that if that's the sole reason that you're doing it, then you haven't really thought it through very well. So is it bad to do things for okay reasons? If I just am giving out of a sense of obedience, should I stop giving?
I think I don't know. I feel like if somebody's kind of giving from like not a good heart, I don't know. I feel like they shouldn't give, because it's just making their heart more ugly. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like, I mean, yeah, it's benefiting whatever they're giving to, but they're still just like, oh, I'm just giving just to give, or I'm just like, I don't know. That's how I feel. Because even like going kind of back to like we were talking about earlier about tithing, is like, don't even tithe if you have a heart of like, oh, I have to do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's about the heart. I don't know.
It's an interesting thought. I mean, that's kind of why I asked the question, because, if you say to yourself, well, I'm only going to give out obedience, so I think I'll stop giving until I really have the heart to give. And then when I really have the heart to give, then I'll start giving. What do you think's going to happen?
You're not going to have the heart to give.
You're never going to have the heart.
No.
So it's almost like, is it easier to go from 0% to 10% or from 3% to 10%? It's easier to go from doing it out of maybe not really thinking about it or doing it for the wrong reasons. But I mean, in the end, the recipient, the person who's getting the check, are they going to return the check if they think you're giving for a bad reason?
No.
No, because they're going to try to get good use out of it. There's some poor, abused, sex trafficked person or cancer patient that really could use the money. So it's still better that they get the money. So there's still a benefit to the generosity. But eventually, we want to try to get people to think about, hey, it's great that you're giving, but gosh, think about it this way. And doing it as an act of generosity and not just out of an act of obedience or out of trying to get a tax deduction or doing it because you're afraid that God's going to strike you down. Let's look at it a different way. And you can get excited about giving. I don't know if you remember back in week 1, we talked about the word sacrifice. And that is giving a sacrifice. There's 2 ways to look at it. One is, obviously, if I give $10, I can't use that $10 for anything else. And therefore, I've given up the right to spend that $10 at Starbucks or at Dave & Buster's or at Old Navy or wherever. But if I'm giving and I give $10 and I get joy out of it, I get a sense of that I'm changing the world, it's not sacrificial, because the word sacrificial tends to get us to think we're losing out on something. We're making a conscious decision to spend money one way rather than another. That's not a sacrifice in the sense of, oh, now I'm not going to be able to get my earbuds. You're just going to say, look, I want to change the world, and hopefully I'll make enough money to get my earbuds at some point in the future. But I wouldn't call it sacrificial. All right. I think we've covered that. All right. So how do you get started? The best thing that you can do to get started is just to start small. I don't know if Dan's still on, but Dan uses this term, give somebody a high five, which means, hey, start with $5 and see what $5 can do. And, maybe you can bump that up to $10 next month or $15 the month after that. Give of your time. Find something that you can be passionate about, something that you can enjoy doing. Yes, there is a need for some people to volunteer doing ugly things, but if you can find something where you enjoy it and you're helping somebody, you're more likely to do it way more often. And different people like different things. There are people that get a lot out of picking up trash in various places, where other people think that's gross. So that's why we have lots of options. Some people like working at a soup kitchen. Some people don't like working at a soup kitchen. So find something that you would enjoy. And then I think you'll hopefully make it happen out of it. And then now that you are almost a GU graduate, we can talk about trips. So,
yay!
The time we have left, we're going to talk about trips. Before we do, if you really are poor, if you're a starving student or you're gainfully unemployed, then focus your energies on getting your more wealthy friends to part with their money. Find something that you're passionate about, share that passion, talk to your friends and family members about why you're passionate about it, and see if you can get them to become involved. If they see your passion and then they know that, wow, you've looked at their tax forms and you've gone and visited and you're volunteering, maybe they'll write a check when they don't normally write a check. And so you can help the organization that way. So yeah, if you don't have any money that you can part with, then get other people to part with their money. All right, let's talk about trips. So obviously trips in the past year have been almost non-existent. It's a strange world we're living in. but most years we go on 5, 6, sometimes 7 trips. As you finish your homework assignments and get those turned in, Beth will add you to the list of graduates that get occasional emails on when we announce trips. So obviously the first thing to do is to make sure that you've met the graduation requirements of the course. We've lost a couple of people in this class because they had to miss two classes, so they'll make it up hopefully next quarter, and then they'll be able to join. If you feel like you've gotten some value out of this course, then it would be great if you invited a friend to sign up to take the class. We'd love to have the problem of not having enough teachers to teach classes, or not having enough money to give, but so far God's been very gracious, and we are always looking for students that will get value out of this. So please share your experience with others. And it's not to say, hey, take this class and go on a trip. It's take this class and really think about generosity and what it means for you, and what it can mean to the world.
Hey, Steve.
Our goal, yes, Dan.
I am still on the call, recording the call or the class. And I wanted to make sure everybody knows we do 2 kind of trips. You get one of each. One is the big trips, and Steve is right. This has been a tough 2 years actually. And one thing we've done is we've kind of made it through 2 service trips and a trip to the Bahamas in a really destitute area. So we're doing our best to be COVID busters and be an example to other people, because there's so many people that are just living in fear, and we're trying not to live in fear. But anyway, you get one big trip, and then you get, and we call them our big trips. That's kind of where you fly over the big ocean. And this year we're still doing Colombia and Nigeria.
Colombia is the little ocean.
That's a little ocean. Nigeria is the big ocean. We would have done Lebanon, but we had a trip leader that lost his passport. So that's, we have good and bad leaders too. So, but we will have more next year. We have Uganda, we have Lebanon, and we'll have 3 or 4 more. So we're really trying to stay at it. The service trips, the small ones, are more like you get your hands involved. Some of you have been to Mexico. I think Josh has. And so we do more hands-on work and not so much funding. But I find those trips also very good because, I don't know, sometimes it's just nice to work hard and do some cool things.
Yeah, those service trips are often tied to disasters. So like post-hurricane, we've gone to Texas and Florida, New Orleans, and served the communities that got affected by hurricanes. When the volcano in Hawaii, burned a couple homes, we had a couple of students ask if we would do a service trip to Hawaii, and that got rejected, unfortunately. But we're really, again, trying to serve those that really can't help themselves. So that's what those service trips are about.
And we're trying to build those service and disaster trips up. I mean, we get emails for Haiti and for Tennessee, and we get them all the time. We're just trying to build that up a little bit more.
Yeah. So the idea is for these international trips is that you're going out there and you're observing and sometimes participating, but mostly observing organizations in action. So we may visit 2 or 4 or 7 different organizations in a country, and you can be thinking about it as you're going as our ambassadors, because we can't always go on all these trips. So when we go to Colombia, and we see 5 different organizations, you're going to come back and you're going to present to the board, hey, we visited these 5 organizations. Some of them are doing great work. Some of them may or may not be doing great work. If we had money to give to these organizations, this is how much we would give and how we would want them to spend it. And so we roughly send you out with the idea that you have somewhere around $50,000 to give to organizations in country in the trip that you go to. So there's again, there's no guarantee that all of you, just because you're all friends and live in San Bernardino, you'll all get to go on the same trip. Not to say that it can't happen, but when we make the trips available, we collect applications, and then we review those applications, and then we choose, because we typically limit the trips to around 12 students. Mostly because we got to get people in vans and travel around on dirt roads, and it's much harder to do with a group much larger than that. But if all of you say to each other, hey, get ready when we get the next email from Beth and it has a trip to one of these countries, let's all quickly sign up for it and get our names on the list, and chances are you'll be on the same trip. So, but we don't make any guarantees there. We cover a good 95% of the expenses for the trip. We cover your airfare, all of your stay, your transportation. When we're eating together as a group, we will pay for the meal. If for some reason you're going to be out on your own for lunch, then I'm not going to hand you $5 and say, go get lunch. You're going to have your own money for that. But bring a credit card. Most places love to take your money. So, and if you need a special visa, like when we went to Russia, we had to have a special visa, and Giving University pays for the fees for the visas. You will have to pay for whatever you take on the trip. Your luggage and your clothes and getting your passport. If we have what we call a culture day, where maybe we have an optional activity. For example, the Uganda team, went rafting down the Nile River. So that's an optional thing. We'll let you know ahead of time what that thing is and how much it'll cost, and you'll have to bring the money to cover that. Each trip is going to be a little bit different. We will let you know what organizations we'll be looking at in those countries, what the culture day. We may give you a little bit of information on what that day is like, but we may not. We don't want you to pick a trip just because it's going to have some cool fun day. We want you to pick trips that are more in line with your passions, that are working with ministries or organizations that you can connect with. Occasionally we'll have a trip that is more spiritually oriented, and other trips are more, charity oriented. So you want to keep your eye out on those as to whether they may match up to your personal views. Because we don't want you to be uncomfortable.
Steve, let me say one thing too on that last slide.
Yeah.
On passports, they're really stretched out right now, and so you may not be going on a trip for a year, but I would say try to get that going if you don't have one right away. It's really doubled and tripled in time.
Yeah, put it on your list of things to do this month. They're good for 10 years. And it's always good to have it available, because I heard, it's like can be up to 18 weeks right now, when it used to be more like 3 or 4 weeks. So it's good to get your name in there, get all your paperwork together, and get your passport. Okay, questions on trips? You guys can actually propose trips. So if you are aware of cool organizations in other countries, we have a form that you can get from Beth on how to propose a trip, and we may accept that trip as is, or we may take pieces of it and combine it with something else. No guarantees. Ultimately, the board's going to make that decision. But if there is something that you would really like to see the Giving University go visit and participate in, then ask Beth for a trip proposal document, and you can propose a trip yourself.
Steve,
Yes,
have you heard of Compassion International?
I have. We've worked with them in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually sponsored 2 boys from there, and I've been sponsoring them for like 6 years now.
That's very cool. That's very
That's
cool. Yeah, we
cool.
didn't talk too much about child sponsorship. It's they've learned a lot from the child sponsorship things, so to where most of the time today, you have a picture of a kid on your refrigerator, but that kid has no idea that you exist. The money's really going to the whole town, because there used to be a time when they were here's the sponsored kids and here's the unsponsored kids, and it was causing a lot of issues in the community. But it's a great way to for somebody to be praying for somebody, or thinking about somebody, or giving, and having knowing that they're helping this person with a real face and a real life, and knowing that they're having an impact. So yeah, World Vision Compassion International, we've worked with both of those kinds of child sponsorship groups.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a good reason to do your research on them.
Yeah. So like Dan said, we do have trips coming up. We typically we'll keep a wait list as well, because people drop out for various reasons. The week isn't working out, and they have to drop at some point. So if the next time you see an email and you want to sign up for Uganda or Kenya, or assuming we'll do Lebanon at some point if the country's can get its act together. And Dan will do Mexico every year, so he's already got the dates for 2022, sometime in June, right?
We'll have two different events, but yeah, we'll build some houses in June.
That's great. Very cool. Other questions? Other thoughts about the course itself? Okay, go ahead, Malcolm.
I have one regarding the graduation confirmation. You said that we'll get an email with that from Beth?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that have to happen. One is the board has to review your grant proposal. And they're reviewing it for 2 reasons. One is, do they feel like you put in the effort required to complete the homework assignment? And the other is the organization worthy of getting a $1,000 check? So if both of those things are true, then Beth will mail you a check written out to that organization, probably for $1,000. Occasionally we bump it up, if we really like the organization. And then because it's within driving distance of your home, you get to drive over to that organization and present that check, and let them know what you did at Giving University, and that you researched them and found them worthy, and that you are partnering with them and are handing them a check. So that's cool. If the board decides that your grant, that they can't approve the grant, they'll ask you to resubmit. And you can do that a number of times, as some of you have discovered. But hopefully, eventually you'll find one that you like and the board likes, and you'll have that $1,000 to give back. So,
But
Thank you for that information.
Let me clarify one thing too, Steve, is if once you do a presentation, if that's a good presentation, whether or not the board approves it, you still graduate from class because you did the exercise.
Understood.
Steve kind of went quickly over that, but if you do a good, it's when people just go, when they're copying and pasting, that's kind of picked up quickly. But when you do a nice job and it just doesn't fly through, you graduate from the class. Now, I've had to chase down people for a couple of years, a couple times, and I said, "Listen, you graduated. Now get that place $1,000 because we want to help." But anyway,
Yes,
just so
sir.
you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for adding that in, Dan. I forgot. I knew I was heading there in my head, and then I lost it.
Yeah.
All right. Other thoughts, other comments? Did you guys feel like the course was worth your time? Did you learn anything? Are you asleep?
I loved GU, Steve, and I really learned so much. I think my favorite topic was the homelessness one, just because it's super close to my heart with my brothers and stuff. So, but great organization. I was kind of joking with my family. I was like, they don't play. Like, we got to have our face unmuted because it's true, Steve. Like, you and Dan and Beth take the time to do this, and it's free. And so I understand how we have to engage it. I just love it. I love participation, and I am on board with you guys. I'm just excited. I love traveling. We just came back from Brazil, and I'm just like ready for another trip. I know God is moving. He's going to move in every single one of our lives, and super proud of you guys for finishing in the home stretch. And it was just I have like a list of 12 people that's going to take the class in September. I've been recruiting. So I told them, like, you guys have to take it. It's free. It's amazing. And like, you learn a lot, but not anybody, right? I have like really awesome people that are going to be joining. So, but man, God is good. And thank you for all your time, Steve, Dan and Beth. You guys are amazing. And so I'm excited. I'm super stoked.